The aroma of roasted chicken filled the dining room as we sat down for dinner. It was one of those rare, calm evenings where everything felt just right. Rachel had been busy at work, and I was finally caught up on my projects. The kids were at my sister's for the weekend, and it felt like we finally had a moment to breathe. We exchanged small talk about our day, the usual pleasantries. Rachel seemed particularly excited, a spark in her eyes that I hadn't seen in a while. As we dug into our meal, she suddenly looked up from her plate, her expression a mix of anticipation and nervousness. "Jake," she began, her voice tinged with excitement, "I have some news." I put down my fork and leaned in, curious. "What's up?" "I've decided to enroll in a professional development course on marketing," she announced, her eyes shining. "It's something I've been thinking about for a while, and I finally took the plunge." I felt a surge of pride. Rachel had always been ambitious, always striving for more, and this was a step towards something bigger for her. "That's amazing, Rachel. I'm so proud of you," I said, reaching out to squeeze her hand. She smiled, a flush of pleasure coloring her cheeks. "Thanks, Jake. I just feel like it's time for me to grow professionally, you know? The kids are older now, and I want to do something for myself." We spent the rest of dinner talking about the course. She told me about the curriculum, the instructors, and the new skills she hoped to learn. The way her eyes lit up as she spoke reminded me of the woman I fell in love with, driven, passionate, and full of life. As the evening wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling of excitement for her. This was a new chapter for Rachel, and I was thrilled to see her so enthusiastic about it. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a series of events that would change everything for us. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window as Rachel gathered her things for her first day of class. She looked radiant, her face glowing with a mixture of excitement and nerves. She had chosen a smart, professional outfit, a crisp white blouse and tailored navy skirt, that highlighted her confidence and determination. "I can't believe today is the day," she said, her voice trembling slightly as she packed her bag with notebooks and pens. "You'll be amazing," I assured her, handing her a travel mug filled with coffee. "Just be yourself. They're going to love you." She smiled, taking a deep breath. "Thanks, Jake. I just hope I can keep up with everything." I walked her to the door, giving her a quick kiss. "You got this," I said, watching her walk down the driveway and get into her car. As she drove away, I felt a pang of loneliness, but also a swell of pride. This was a big step for Rachel, and I was excited to see where it would take her. That evening, I was eagerly waiting for her return. When I heard the car pull into the driveway, I jumped up from the couch, eager to hear about her first day. Rachel walked through the door, her face flushed with excitement. "How was it?" I asked, unable to contain my curiosity. "It was incredible!" she exclaimed, dropping her bag and taking off her coat. "The class is so engaging and the people are fantastic. And my instructor, David, he's just amazing. He has so much knowledge and experience. I can tell I'm going to learn a lot from him." She went on to describe the day's events in great detail. David, the instructor, had a magnetic presence. He was articulate and passionate and had a way of making complex concepts seem simple and approachable. Rachel's eyes sparkled as she recounted his stories and insights, and I could see she was genuinely inspired. "He gave us a project to work on for next week," Rachel said, pulling out a folder filled with notes and handouts. "I already have so many ideas. I can't wait to get started." I watched her with admiration. She was like a whirlwind filled with energy and enthusiasm. It was clear that this course was exactly what she needed to reignite her passion for her career. Over the next few weeks, Rachel's routine changed. She spent more time at the library and in her home office, immersed in her studies. Her excitement was infectious, and I did my best to support her, taking on more of the household chores and encouraging her every step of the way. One evening, as she was working late on a project, I brought her a cup of tea. "How's it going?" I asked, peering over her shoulder at her computer screen. "Good," she replied, looking up with a tired but satisfied smile. "David has been really helpful. He gave me some great feedback on my last assignment." I nodded, trying to ignore the small twinge of jealousy that pricked at me. It was only natural for her to admire her instructor, I told myself. After all, he was helping her grow and succeed. As the weeks turned into months, Rachel's dedication to her studies only grew. She often stayed late after class, working on group projects and preparing for exams. I missed her presence at home, but I knew this was important to her. Then came the night when she returned home later than usual. She looked different, happier, more relaxed. "Sorry I'm late," she said, kicking off her shoes. "David took a few of us out for drinks to celebrate the end of the first module." I forced a smile, trying to hide my unease. "That sounds fun. Did you have a good time?" "It was great," she said, her eyes lighting up. "David is such a fascinating person. He has so many interesting stories. I really enjoyed talking with him outside of class." As she continued to talk about David, I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. I tried to push the thoughts aside, telling myself that it was just professional admiration. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted, and it was starting to take root. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would test our relationship in ways I never imagined. The weeks turned into months, and Rachel's enthusiasm for her course showed no signs of waning. If anything, it intensified. She spent countless hours in the library, often coming home late and immediately diving into her work. I admired her dedication but couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting. One evening, I came home from work to find Rachel meticulously getting ready for class. She stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her hair and reapplying her makeup. This was unusual. Rachel had always been effortlessly beautiful and never felt the need to fuss over her appearance for work or casual outings. "You look great," I said, trying to keep my tone light. She smiled at me through the mirror, her eyes sparkling. "Thanks, Jake. I just want to make a good impression. You know how it is." I nodded, though I couldn't recall the last time she had been this concerned about making a good impression on anyone other than her clients. Something felt off, but I pushed the thought away, not wanting to seem paranoid. Rachel's late returns became more frequent. She often explained it away as extra study sessions or group projects that required her attention. One night, I decided to surprise her with dinner at her favorite restaurant, hoping to spend some quality time together. I called her around 6 p.m. "Hey, Rachel, I was thinking we could go out for dinner tonight. How about that Italian place you love?" I suggested. There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. "Oh, Jake, I'm so sorry. I can't tonight. David scheduled a last-minute study session to help us with the upcoming project. I'll be home late." I tried to mask my disappointment. "That's okay. Maybe another night." As I hung up, a nagging doubt crept into my mind. I decided to call one of her classmates, a friend of ours, to see if he knew anything about the study session. "Hey, Mike, it's Jake. I was just wondering if Rachel is with you guys at the study session tonight." "Study session? No, man. I don't think there was anything scheduled for tonight. I just got home from the library and there was no talk of any meeting." A cold chill ran down my spine. I thanked Mike and ended the call, feeling a knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. A few days later, I noticed Rachel's phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. She was in the shower, so I glanced at the screen, intending to bring it to her if it was important. The message preview read, "Can't wait to see you again tonight. David." My heart pounded as I tried to process what I had just seen. Was it possible that Rachel's admiration for her instructor had turned into something more? The idea made me sick to my stomach. That evening, I confronted her. "Rachel, we need to talk," I said, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and fear. She looked up from her notes, her expression wary. "What is it, Jake?" "Who is David to you? I saw a message from him on your phone. It didn't seem like something a teacher would send to a student." Her face went pale and she looked away, unable to meet my eyes. "Jake, it's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is," I demanded, feeling a surge of desperation. Rachel took a deep breath, tears welling up in her eyes. "David and we started spending more time together outside of class. At first, it was just to discuss projects, but then it became more. I didn't mean for it to happen, but I developed feelings for him. I felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I didn't want to admit to myself that it was happening. My mind raced as I tried to comprehend her words. "So what now? What does this mean for us?" Rachel looked at me, her expression one of anguish. "I don't know, Jake. I need time to figure things out." I nodded, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and helplessness. "Take all the time you need," I said quietly, turning away from her. But remember, we're in this together, or at least we used to be. As I walked out of the room, I couldn't help but wonder if we would ever find our way back to each other. The seed of doubt had grown into a full-blown crisis, and the future of our relationship hung in the balance. The days following our conversation were tense and filled with an unspoken distance between us. Rachel continued her course, and I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting back to her late returns and that message from David. It was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore the changes in her behavior. One evening, Rachel came home even later than usual. She walked in, her cheeks flushed and her hair slightly disheveled. She gave me a tired smile, but there was a nervous energy about her that I couldn't ignore. "Hey, sorry I'm late," she said, dropping her bag by the door. "David wanted to go over some extra material for the project." "Again?" I asked, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. She hesitated, sensing my frustration. "Yeah, he's really dedicated to helping us succeed." I nodded, trying to suppress my growing suspicions. "You must be exhausted. Let's have dinner." Rachel agreed, and we sat down to eat, but the conversation was strained. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. After dinner, she excused herself to take a shower, leaving her phone on the kitchen counter. The phone buzzed, and I glanced at the screen. It was a message from David. "Great seeing you tonight. Looking forward to our next meeting." My heart sank and my mind raced with questions. I knew I had to find out what was really going on. That night, after Rachel had fallen asleep, I took her phone and carefully unlocked it. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her messages with David. What I found confirmed my worst fears. Affectionate texts, plans to meet outside of class, and even photos of them together. The betrayal hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt a mixture of anger, hurt, and disbelief. I put her phone back, my mind spinning with thoughts of what to do next. The following morning, I decided I couldn't keep this to myself any longer. I called my best friend Tom and asked him to meet me for coffee. Tom had always been my confidant, and I needed his advice now more than ever. As we sat in the corner of our favorite cafe, I spilled everything. Rachel's late returns, the message from David, and the texts I had found. Tom listened intently, his expression growing more serious with each detail. "Jake, this isn't something you can ignore," he said finally. "You need to confront Rachel and get to the bottom of this." "I did confront her," I replied, my voice shaking. She admitted to having feelings for David but said she needed time to figure things out. Tom shook his head. "This isn't just about feelings anymore. She's actively hiding things from you. You deserve the truth." That evening, I waited for Rachel to come home. When she walked in, I could see the weariness in her eyes, but there was also a hint of guilt. "We need to talk," I said, my voice firm. She nodded, sensing the seriousness in my tone. We sat down on the couch, and I took a deep breath, preparing myself for the difficult conversation ahead. "I know about the messages, Rachel," I began, watching her reaction closely. "I know about the late-night meetings and the photos. Why didn't you tell me the whole truth?" Rachel's face went pale and tears welled up in her eyes. "Jake, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was confused and didn't know how to handle it." "Confused?" I echoed, my voice rising. "You were hiding an affair from me, Rachel. That's more than just confusion," she sobbed, covering her face with her hands. "I never wanted to hurt you. I got caught up in something I didn't know how to control." "Then why didn't you come to me?" I demanded, feeling a mix of anger and sorrow. "Why didn't you talk to me about what you were feeling?" Rachel looked at me, her eyes filled with regret. "I was afraid, Jake. Afraid of losing you, afraid of admitting my mistakes." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of her words hanging between us. Finally, I spoke, my voice trembling. "We can't keep going like this, Rachel. Something has to change." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I know. I want to fix this, Jake. I want to make things right." "I hope you mean that," I said quietly, "because it's going to take a lot of work to rebuild the trust you've broken." As we sat there, I realized that our journey was far from over. The road ahead would be long and challenging, but for the sake of our marriage, I was willing to try. The question was Rachel? The days following our intense conversation were a blur of emotions. Rachel and I were trying to find a way forward, but the tension between us was palpable. We both knew that trust would not be easily rebuilt, and every small gesture or word seemed to carry a heavier weight than before. One afternoon, about a week later, I came home early from work, hoping to surprise Rachel with a nice dinner. As I entered the house, I noticed a small, elegant box on the kitchen table. It was wrapped in gold paper and adorned with a delicate ribbon. Curious, I picked it up and saw a small card attached. The handwriting was neat and unfamiliar. To Rachel, for all your hard work and dedication. Best, David. A knot formed in my stomach as I slowly unwrapped the box. Inside was a beautiful bracelet studded with sparkling gemstones. It was the kind of gift that spoke volumes. Expensive, thoughtful, and undeniably personal. Rachel walked in just as I was holding the bracelet. Her eyes widened in surprise, and she froze. "Jake, I didn't expect you to be home so early," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I held up the bracelet. "What is this, Rachel?" She took a deep breath, her eyes filling with tears. "It's a gift from David. He said it was for my hard work in the course. I didn't ask for it, I swear." "Hard work?" I repeated, my voice rising. "Rachel, this isn't just a token of appreciation. This is something more." She looked down, unable to meet my gaze. "I know it looks bad, Jake, but I didn't encourage this. I didn't want to make a scene in class by refusing it." I felt a surge of anger. "So you thought bringing it home and hiding it would be better?" Tears streamed down her face as she shook her head. "I was going to tell you, I just didn't know how. Everything is so messed up, and I didn't want to make things worse." I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions raging inside me. "Rachel, this has to stop. You need to set boundaries with David. This isn't professional. It's personal, and it's destroying us." She nodded, wiping her tears. "You're right. I'll talk to him. I'll make it clear that this has to end." That night, Rachel sent David a message, explaining that she couldn't accept the gift and that their relationship needed to remain strictly professional. She showed me the message before sending it, and although it gave me some comfort, the trust that had been shattered was far from being restored. The next day, Rachel returned the bracelet to David. She came home looking exhausted but relieved. "I told him everything," she said, sinking into the couch. "He was disappointed but understood. He said he didn't want to come between us." I nodded, hoping that this would be the turning point. "Thank you for doing that, Rachel. It means a lot." Despite Rachel's efforts to set boundaries with David and her commitment to rebuilding our relationship, a sense of unease lingered. Our conversations were more open, and Rachel was making genuine efforts to repair the damage, but the betrayal still cast a shadow over our lives. One evening, Rachel came home visibly shaken. She tried to hide it, but I could tell something was wrong. "Rachel, what happened?" I asked, concerned. She hesitated, then sighed. "David confronted me after class today. He said he didn't understand why we couldn't be friends outside of school. He kept pushing, and it made me really uncomfortable." My heart pounded with a mix of anger and protectiveness. "What exactly did he say?" Rachel recounted the conversation, her voice trembling. David had been persistent, not accepting her decision to keep their relationship strictly professional. He had even hinted that he missed their private conversations and time together. "I told him that I couldn't talk to him like that anymore," Rachel said, tears welling up in her eyes. "But he didn't seem to care. He just kept pushing." I clenched my fists, feeling a surge of anger. "This has to stop, Rachel. We can't let him manipulate you like this." "I know," she whispered, "but I don't know what to do. I'm scared, Jake." Seeing Rachel so vulnerable broke my heart. I pulled her into a tight hug, vowing to protect her and our family from this unwanted intrusion. "We'll handle this together," I assured her. "You're not alone in this." The next day, I took the day off work to accompany Rachel to her class. She was nervous, but I insisted on being there for support. As we walked into the building, I could feel the tension in the air. Rachel led me to the classroom, and we waited outside for David to arrive. When he finally appeared, his eyes widened in surprise upon seeing me. "Jake, what are you doing here?" he asked, trying to maintain a casual tone. "I'm here to talk," I said firmly. "Rachel has told me everything." David's expression shifted, a mix of irritation and guilt flashing across his face. "Look, Jake, I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I just wanted to help Rachel with her career." Helping her with her career doesn't involve overstepping boundaries and making her uncomfortable, I replied, my voice steady. Rachel has made it clear that she wants to keep things professional. You need to respect that. David's eyes flicked to Rachel, who stood beside me, her face pale but determined. Rachel, I didn't mean to make you feel that way, he stammered. I just thought we had a connection. Rachel took a deep breath, finding her voice. David, I appreciate everything you've done for me academically, but this has to stop. My family is my priority, and I can't continue like this. David looked down, clearly conflicted. I understand, he said finally. I'll back off. Thank you, I said, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. Let's keep this professional from now on. David nodded and walked away, leaving Rachel and me standing there. She exhaled deeply, leaning against me for support. That was hard, she admitted, but I'm glad we did it. Me too, I said, wrapping my arm around her. We're in this together, remember? Over the next few weeks, David's presence in Rachel's life diminished. He respected her wishes and maintained a professional distance. Rachel focused on her. After discovering Rachel's full betrayal, my world felt like it was falling apart. The shock was replaced by a burning anger and a desperate need for answers. I couldn't just leave things as they were. I needed to confront David face to face. The next morning, I drove to the college where David taught. I waited in the parking lot, my heart pounding in my chest as I watched students and faculty go about their day. When I finally spotted David heading toward the building, I got out of the car and approached him. David, I called out, my voice steady but filled with intensity. He turned, surprised to see me. Jake, what are you doing here? We need to talk, I said, my tone leaving no room for argument. Now. David nodded, sensing the seriousness of the situation. We found a secluded spot in the campus courtyard, away from prying eyes and ears. I could see the nervousness in his eyes as we sat down. Jake, if this is about Rachel, he started, but I cut him off. It is about Rachel, I said, my voice cold. I know everything, David. I know about the affair. David looked genuinely remorseful, but it did little to quell my rage. I didn't take advantage of her, Jake. We both made mistakes. I know that doesn't excuse anything, but I never intended to hurt you. Well, you did, I snapped. You both did, and now I have to figure out how to pick up the pieces of my life. There was a moment of silence as David struggled to find the right words. I understand if you hate me, Jake. I can't change what happened, but I want you to know that I'm stepping away. I won't contact Rachel again. She deserves a chance to fix things with you. His words, though somewhat comforting, did little to ease the pain. I appreciate that, I said, my voice softer but still firm. But it's not just about stepping away. You need to understand the damage you've caused. This isn't something that can be fixed with a simple apology. David nodded, his expression somber. I know. I'm truly sorry, Jake. I hope in time, you and Rachel can find a way to heal. I stood up, feeling a mixture of anger and exhaustion. I hope so too, David. But that doesn't change what you've done. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving David standing alone in the courtyard. Confronting him had given me a small sense of closure, but the road to healing was still long and uncertain. That evening, Rachel and I had another difficult conversation. I told her about my meeting with David and his promise to stay away. She seemed relieved, but the pain in her eyes was still evident. Jake, I know I've hurt you in ways I can't even begin to apologize for, she said, her voice trembling. But I want to make things right. I want us to rebuild what we've lost. I looked at her, seeing the sincerity in her eyes. I want that too, Rachel, but it's going to take time. We need to be patient and honest with each other. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm committed to doing whatever it takes, Jake. I love you, and I don't want to lose you. Over the next few weeks, Rachel and I began attending couples therapy. It was a painful and challenging process, but it forced us to confront our issues head-on. We learned to communicate better, to express our feelings without fear of judgment, and to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. There were still moments of doubt and anger, but slowly, we began to find our way back to each other. Rachel's determination to make amends, and my willingness to give her a second chance, became the foundation for our healing. Our journey was far from over, but for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. We were taking small steps towards a future that, though uncertain, held the promise of redemption and renewal. Together, we faced the pain and worked towards a love that was stronger, deeper, and more resilient than before. The months following our confrontation with David were filled with a mixture of healing and struggle. Rachel and I were making progress in therapy, and our communication had improved significantly. However, the wounds of betrayal were still fresh, and rebuilding trust was an ongoing battle. One evening, as we were sitting down for dinner, Rachel seemed unusually quiet. I noticed she kept glancing at her phone, a mixture of excitement and apprehension on her face. "Rachel, is everything okay?" I asked, sensing that she had something on her mind. She looked up, her eyes shining with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "Jake, I got an offer for a new job today. It's a significant opportunity, but there's a catch." I put down my fork, intrigued. "What kind of opportunity?" "It's a senior position at a prestigious company," she explained. "The pay is great, and it would be a huge step forward in my career. But the job is in Seattle." Seattle. The word hung in the air between us, heavy with implications. Moving to a new city would mean leaving behind our current life, our friends, and everything familiar. It would be a fresh start, but also a huge leap into the unknown. "Seattle," I repeated, trying to process the idea. "That's a big change." Rachel nodded, her expression serious. "I know, but maybe a fresh start is what we need. A new place, a new beginning. We can leave all the pain and hurt behind and focus on building a better future together." I sat back, considering her words. A fresh start did sound appealing. It would be a chance to put distance between us and the painful memories of the past year, but it was also a daunting prospect, filled with uncertainties. "What about the kids?" I asked. "How do you think they'll handle the move?" Rachel sighed. "It will be an adjustment for them, but they're resilient. We can make it an adventure, a positive change for all of us, and I'll make sure to find good schools and a supportive community for them." I looked into her eyes, seeing the determination and hope there. Despite everything, Rachel was willing to do whatever it took to make things right. And deep down, I knew that a fresh start could be the key to healing our fractured relationship. "Okay," I said finally, a sense of resolve settling over me. "Let's do it. Let's move to Seattle." Rachel's face lit up with relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Jake. I promise this is going to be a positive change for us. I won't let you down." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity as we prepared for the move. We packed up our belongings, said our goodbyes to friends and neighbors, and made all the necessary arrangements for our new life in Seattle. The kids were initially hesitant about the move, but as we involved them in the process and highlighted the exciting aspects of the new city, their apprehension turned into excitement. The day of the move arrived, and as we drove away from our old home, I felt a mixture of sadness and hope. Leaving behind the place where so many memories, both good and bad, had been made was bittersweet. But the promise of a fresh start and a new beginning filled me with a sense of optimism. Seattle greeted us with open arms. The city was vibrant and full of opportunities. Rachel's new job was everything she had hoped for and more. She threw herself into her work with renewed energy and enthusiasm, and it was clear that the change was doing her good. We found a cozy house in a friendly neighborhood, and the kids quickly adapted to their new schools and made new friends. The fresh start seemed to breathe new life into our family, and slowly but surely, the wounds of the past began to heal. Rachel and I continued our therapy sessions, focusing on building a stronger, more resilient relationship. We spent more time together as a family, exploring the city and creating new memories. The distance from our old life allowed us to let go of the past and look forward to the future with hope. One evening, as we sat on our porch watching the sunset over the Seattle skyline, Rachel turned to me with a smile. "Jake, thank you for taking this leap with me. I know it hasn't been easy, but I believe we're stronger because of it." I squeezed her hand, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and love. "Rachel, we're in this together, no matter what. This fresh start was exactly what we needed." As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace and contentment. The journey had been long and difficult, but we had found our way back to each other. In the heart of a new city, we had rediscovered our love and rebuilt our trust. And for the first time in a long while, I truly believed in the possibility of a brighter future. Moving to Seattle marked a new chapter in our lives. a chance for a fresh start, and a renewed sense of hope. The city welcomed us with its crisp ocean air, vibrant neighborhoods, and the promise of new beginnings. The first few weeks in Seattle were a whirlwind of unpacking boxes, exploring our new surroundings, and adjusting to our new routines. Rachel threw herself into her new job, spending long hours at the office, but coming home with a sense of fulfillment that had been missing for so long. Our new house, nestled in a quiet neighborhood near the outskirts of the city, quickly began to feel like home. The kids adapted surprisingly well to their new schools, making friends and eagerly sharing stories about their day over dinner. It was reassuring to see them settling in so smoothly, their laughter echoing through the halls of our new home. As for me, adjusting to life in Seattle meant finding new routines and exploring the city's unique charm. I took up jogging along the scenic waterfront trails, finding solace in the rhythm of my footsteps and the calming views of Puget Sound. The city's bustling markets and eclectic coffee shops became my sanctuary, places where I could reflect and recharge. One Saturday morning, Rachel and I decided to explore Pike Place Market, a bustling hub of activity and a Seattle icon. We strolled past stalls overflowing with fresh seafood, vibrant flowers, and local crafts, soaking in the lively atmosphere and the scent of roasted coffee drifting through the air. "This place is amazing," Rachel exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I can't believe we get to call this city home." I smiled, feeling a sense of pride in our decision to start fresh in Seattle. "It's definitely growing on me," I admitted. "There's so much to see and do here." We wandered through the market, sampling local delicacies and chatting with friendly vendors who shared stories about the city's history and culture. It was moments like these, simple yet profound, that reminded me of why we had made the move in the first place. Over the weeks that followed, Rachel and I continued our therapy sessions, focusing on rebuilding trust and strengthening our bond. The wounds of the past were slowly healing, replaced by a growing sense of optimism for our future together. One evening, as we sat on our porch overlooking the city skyline, Rachel turned to me with a smile. "Jake, I'm grateful for this fresh start. It feels like we're finally moving forward." I nodded, reaching for her hand. "Me too, Rachel. Seattle has been good for us. I think we're on the right path." She leaned against me, the warmth of her presence comforting. "I know we still have a long way to go, but I believe in us, Jake. We can get through anything as long as we're together." As the sun set over the Emerald City, casting a golden glow over the horizon, I felt a renewed sense of hope and gratitude. Seattle had given us a chance to rebuild, to rediscover our love, and to embrace the future with open hearts. And as we sat together, watching the city come alive with twinkling lights, I knew that our journey was far from over, but we were stronger, more resilient, and ready to face whatever lay ahead, together. A year had passed since our move to Seattle, and life had transformed in ways we had never imagined. Seattle had become more than just a new city. It had become our home, a place where we had found healing, growth, and new opportunities. Rachel's career had blossomed in ways that surpassed even her own expectations. Her dedication and hard work had not gone unnoticed, and within months of starting her new job, she was promoted to a higher position. The promotion brought new responsibilities and challenges, but Rachel embraced them with determination and enthusiasm. "I got the promotion," Rachel announced one evening over dinner, her face glowing with pride and excitement. "They want me to lead a new project team." I couldn't hide my own excitement. "That's amazing, Rachel. I'm so proud of you." She smiled warmly, her eyes reflecting a mixture of relief and accomplishment. "It's been a lot of hard work, but it feels like everything is finally falling into place." The promotion meant longer hours and greater responsibilities, but Rachel managed to balance her career ambitions with our family life. She juggled meetings, deadlines, and late nights at the office with grace, always making time for our children and me. Her success became a source of inspiration for our entire family, motivating us to strive for our own goals and dreams. As Rachel settled into her new role, our life in Seattle took on a rhythm of its own. We continued to explore the city's attractions, from its scenic parks to its bustling downtown. Weekends were spent hiking in the nearby mountains or enjoying picnics by the waterfront, creating cherished memories that strengthened our bond as a family. Therapy remained a vital part of our journey. We continued to attend sessions regularly, using the tools and insights gained to navigate the ups and downs of our relationship. Our communication had improved significantly, allowing us to address issues openly and constructively. Trust, once fractured, had begun to rebuild, fortified by honesty, forgiveness, and a shared commitment to our future together. Our social circle had expanded as well. We formed close friendships with colleagues and neighbors, hosting dinner parties and gatherings that filled our home with laughter and camaraderie. Seattle's vibrant community welcomed us with open arms, offering a sense of belonging that had eluded us in our previous lives. As the anniversary of our move approached, Rachel and I found ourselves reflecting on the journey we had taken together. Sitting on our porch one evening, watching the sunset over the Seattle skyline, Rachel turned to me with a smile. "Jake, do you remember how uncertain we were about moving here?" she asked softly. I nodded, taking her hand in mine. "I do, but I'm so glad we took that leap together." Her smile widened. "Me too. Seattle has given us so much, a fresh start, new opportunities, and a chance to rebuild our lives." "And look how far you've come in your career," I said, pride swelling in my chest. "I couldn't be prouder of you, Rachel." She leaned against me, the warmth of her presence comforting. "Thank you, Jake. None of this would have been possible without your support." As we sat together, gazing out at the city lights twinkling in the dusk, I felt a profound sense of gratitude and hope. Seattle had brought us not only healing and growth, but also a renewed sense of purpose and possibility. And as we looked ahead to the future, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, stronger, more resilient, and deeply grateful for the life we had built in this vibrant, welcoming city, more deeply in love than ever before.